Good morning from Southern California. It's a delight to be here with you today.
It's great to talk with you. Thank you for taking this time. So this is Minister Joy Jonsson, who is my friend who I met while she was touring in the UK doing seminars a couple of years ago. We met, and Melissa's going to be teaching in London in June, which I'm really excited about. This will be my first time experiencing live her work, so I'm really excited. So Melissa, I would love to talk to you about your work um, from the perspective of energy healers and people whose main path and interest is with working with energy. I have been mind blown by what I've seen so far of your work. And I'll be honest, I don't intellectually understand it, and a lot of it contradicts what's typically taught. And all I can say is it works. And some of that's really annoying because that's an easy way, and what I've been taught is sometimes a hard way. um, so, where to start?
Well, you kind of broke up for a little bit, and it's interesting. The connection broke up, and then I heard, "But it works," and so I think I'll just kind of dovetail into that by conveying that it's really people that work, and it is our connection to energetic based modalities that activates the potential that's within those modalities. Really, all energy modalities are fields of information, and one of the key principles in the MJoy integrative seminar teachings is how to access or command field flow, how to connect to specific fields of information that when we're connected to them or in resonance with them, what unfolds or expresses naturally and very organically is energy flow. And so what we learn in the MJoy seminars is how to command field flow. And this command is not a forcing or a pushing or an attempt to exert a will over a particular pattern. It's really a heart-centered focus that allows for the full expression of the progression of our own inherent infinite potential. And so, yes, the MJoy teachings work, but they work because they bring the individual into a cohesive alignment with our own natural innate workings, our own flow, our own well-being, and that is what inherently creates healing. And the teachings themselves are based on the patterning of spirituality. In essence, physics is a map or a model to describe the innate workability of all of universal consciousness. And so we leverage the same physics that the creative intelligence utilizes in order to create and relate to everything. And we put that into full effect as a function of flow in order to create, recreate, and relate differently to our lives. And so it's not so much that it goes up against really anything. In fact, what the MJoy teachings enables everyone to do is to get into flow and alignment with our own core essence as limitless beings and embodying our true authentic self, the true authentic self being, okay, we're limitless beings and we're having these experiences that look and feel a lot like limitation. And we bring forth the ability to integrate those seemingly discrete experiences into one cohesive experience where we're able to fully love ourselves and love all our experiences, even our limitations, recognizing that our limitations are placeholders or springboards into the trajectory of our own magnificence.
Wow, thank you.
So I don't know if you're like, well, I don't know what to say to that. Uh, it's a lot of words that I just use to describe kind of the process. That's a very playful process. It's a very authentic process. It's a very easy process. There are 24 very powerful fields of information or morphic fields for some of your the viewers that may be familiar with the work of biologist Rupert Sheldrake. And when we connect to these fields, what naturally unfolds is the energy and experience that is inherent to that particular morphic field. So for example, let's say we're having difficulty with our finances and we're really coming up against our own belief systems around being abundant, around what it means to be spiritual beings and having money. And there's all these contradictory messages or memes that are running in our love hologram. We come into resonance with specific morphic fields of abundance that are shared in the Joy seminar, and that changes up what is reflected in our hologram. So we leverage holographic principles in our own everyday, every way experience, and we learn how to change our experience, not really by changing ourselves, but by changing up the way we've configured our relationship to ourselves, which changes up everything.
Cool.
And understanding is not necessary or required in order to experience these fields. That's what's so really great about them. The experience of the fields leads to an understanding. And so you don't have to comprehend it intellectually in order to be able to access the process. In fact, I just taught a seminar in Denver the last 3 days, and some of the guys came up to me at the end of the seminar, and they're like, "This is so cool because it takes everything that I've learned so far, all the energy modalities that I've been playing in, and rather than getting it from here, I get it from here, and then I understand it from here because I've experienced it." And it was really quite empowering for them to embody the experience and then describe it from an intellectual frame of reference.
I'm just more excited to see you in June now than I was before.
Well, I'm really, really excited to bring this work to London. I've taught all around the United States, and I've taught Joy in Germany a few times, offered in London. Getting a feel for what I'm talking about. I do put out free videos on the Joy YouTube channel. There's also this book, Little Book of Big Potentials, which is kind of one of those books you can just open it to any page and there'll be something that pops out in relation to these fields that will speak to you in a way awesome. And it's also on Kindle, and even better, it's on audiobook on Audible and iTunes. So you can actually listen to me for 9.5 hours and allow for the information that's inherent to these fields to kind of soak into your cellular system, and it goes all the way down and will help to reprogram your DNA. But what I would really say is the experience will change the way that you relate to reality, the way that you understand reality, the way that you experience reality, but it'll change the way you experience yourself. Truly beings of love. And we are, in essence, we're kind of beaten down by society and by the programs that run at the level of the universal hologram that lead us to resonate very strongly in fear and separation and a sense of lack and limitation. And when we learn to recognize those as simply resonances or programs that are running like habits in a hologram, then we learn how to tune our intuition and the ability to change the channel so that we can run different programs. And that actually changes up the grid of the collective consciousness. I don't teach keeping your head in the sand and saying, well, I'm a spiritual being and I'm all love and light, and therefore the stuff that appears to be happening in society doesn't really matter, because it does matter. We are all interconnected beings. We are all unity-based consciousness, and at the same time we are all unique individuals having experiences that affect everyone else. And so understanding that reality is a very complex interplay of patterns, and being able to embrace the patterns that you're resonating with while recognizing that they're not happening in a vacuum, they're all interconnected with everyone else, gives us a very empowering way to reprogram what appears to be happening at the level of the collective so that we're empowered to relate to so-called tragedies and disasters, not from a space of fear, but from a space of recognizing that we live in a holofractal universe, and that even the experiences that look so much like tragedy and disaster contain seeds of love within them. And we learn how to recognize those seeds of love and to allow for our awareness to focus on them from a frame of reference where those seeds can fully blossom and love begins to see itself in all experiences. And so it becomes a way of being able to practically navigate through everyday life, three-dimensional reality with all of its confusion from a space of clarity and a space of grace and coherency that allows for coherency and congruency and integrity in action to play out as the ripple effect, affecting everything that we come into contact with. How does that make you feel?
Excited in a calm way. Good, in short. Yeah.
In short.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's beautiful too about the seminar experience, and I see it over and over again, is that no matter what you know or where you are or what your training is, whether you have a tremendous amount of energy-based training or you have no reference for energy-based modalities, the seminar will meet you exactly where you are, and it will take you deeper and expand you simultaneously. I have had a few Barbara Brennan graduates come through the Joy seminar, and they've really derived benefit from the experience because it synergizes and synthesizes with all of their prior training. So it doesn't require you to abandon what's working for you. These 24 fields will work beautifully with any energy-based modality, and at the same time, there's the possibility that you may find that what you were doing is no longer serving you in entirely the same way, and there's this beautiful opening into different ways of connecting to information to allow for different energies and experiences to express as part of your practical everyday experience.
Sure. Even though you use a different vocabulary, for the people who know Barbara Brennan's work, I know there's already kind of a lot of familiarity. They may not use the words field of information, for example. They may say like a template of energy, but I really, in my experience, it's the same thing.
So here's what I'll share is that templates are portions of morphic fields, and so a template might describe a specific container. A map within a larger morphic field. Use a template to describe a particular layer or density of a morphic field that when we connect to it, then a specific experience can unfold. So I very much can relate to the use of the term template.
Well, that's fascinating. And in that answer is already kind of illuminating like the next step or the evolution of the kind of thing I was taught. So that's really exciting. Thank you. I'm really curious. What journey do you take people on in the seminars? What happens when we come to you?
Beautiful question. And the honest, most authentic response is that every seminar is different because we're responding to the unique co-creative energies of the individuals that show up for the experience. There is a template, so to speak, that is followed in every seminar with a great degree of freedom and flexibility to address the needs of the individuals and the group consciousness. But the foundational template that is leveraged at the very beginning of the seminar is the heart and science of heart-centered awareness and the art and science of embodying heart-centered awareness as a foundation for movement in consciousness. And we leverage actually the physics of the field of the heart so that all of our students kind of map for understanding the process of the creative intelligence. And so it's a very empowering way to begin to understand essentially how nothing becomes everything. And that that physics is the physics of the field of the heart. And so we begin to map the patterns of consciousness from heart-centered awareness in a different way than I've seen a lot of other people talk about heart-centered awareness or even teach seminars about being in the heart. This is a very different way that really honors the unique expression of so-called individuality, because we're all different. And in the same way that there's as many different expressions of universal consciousness, there's many, many different ways to experience heart-centered awareness. So that becomes our platform for interacting with so-called reality, or our experience of reality, which is basically based on our perceptual biases, our lens of awareness. The way we see reality isn't really reality, it's just the way we experience reality. We then begin to interact with these 24 fields of flow, fulfillment, abundance, and joy from a hologrammatic perspective. And what that means is that each one of the individual fields, while they have distinct tendencies that increase the likelihood of a certain experience occurring, they're very hologrammed together. Each individual field contains essences or aspects of all the other fields. In a nutshell, they're all fields of love or grace in action. But when we connect to them, different experiences are noticed or tracked or sensed through our nervous system, through our bodies. Our body exists in the electromagnetic spectrum. And our body is how we're able to track the connection to these fields that exist a little bit beyond the detectable electromagnetic spectrum, because they're torsion-based, and the torsion fields are connected to the light, which is detectable in the electromagnetic spectrum. So we're able to track our connections to the fields through our bodies. How am I noticing, sensing, perceiving, or experiencing the connection to this field, and what shows up differently in my love hologram as a result? So we share and exchange the information, and then we practice. And everybody has the experience of mapping every single field as an embodied experience, so that once it's mapped, it becomes part of our template or part of our shared love hologram. That reference is there forever. And the way that each seminar unfolds, it's actually pretty magical because so many people come with very diverse backgrounds, different intentions, different perceptions around their problems, the things that they want to change. And by the end of the seminar, everybody gets to a place that they couldn't have even imagined at the very beginning, where what's like these big problems that were in suddenly become just the problems are gone. So there is a process that we follow, but that process is very fluid and very flexible and very malleable, in the same way that consciousness is, so that we have a great amount of spontaneity that's encoded within the seminar to honor what is showing up authentically for us in the moment, not based on what we expected we were going to work on, but what authentically surfaces by virtue of coming into resonance in an environment that is conditioned for authentic change and for honoring the individual as they truly are, and not how they've programmed themselves to be, like a program that runs in the hologram or in the matrix.
Cool.
You seem a little speechless.
In a good way. I kind of it's like taking in a new world when you speak and I listen. Yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful way of reflecting back your experience of me. I will share that there's an entire vocabulary. I call it vorticular vernacular, and it is based on the spiraling of the torsion fields, which is the language of light. And so the vocabulary in it, as a part of the Joy seminar, words are cups of light, and they serve as carrier waves for transformation. And so every word that comes out of my mouth is, in essence, it's an opportunity and an invitation to open into transformation, because it isn't just a meaningless word. That word is connected to a morphic field of possibility, a morphic field of potential, a morphic field of love. And so a lot of times people will hear me speak and they'll be like, I have no idea what she just said in that really long sentence, but I'm feeling really different. Dropping into my biofield that I don't have a reference for, but I'm fascinated and inspired and curious. And that curiosity, um, is it's a velocity for our own infinite potential. That curiosity is what opens us into different configurations. It gets us out of the box. It gets us out of our habituated ways of relating to ourselves. And so if anything that I'm sharing evokes curiosity, I would say trust that, follow that. Um, there's a it's kind of funny because I was recently asked by someone who was hearing me talk at a book signing, well, are you a physicist or are you a channeler? And I really got a kick out of that question, because I thought, wow, I don't really know the answer to that. And at the same time, why do I have to choose? Why is it either or? Why can't it be an aspect of and, as in never ending possibilities? Because yes, what moves through me when I'm teaching and sharing and playing in these fields is something that's greater than me. And when I talk about greater than me, I mean bigger than Melissa as the individual with all my so-called perceived limitations. And yet there's this aspect of the physics that is encoded in what I share, because physics gives us a map for allegedly understanding the innate workability of reality. And so, and at the same time, all of my distinctions made over the last several decades, and particularly in the last 9 or 10 years teaching consciousness-based technologies around the world, those distinctions are encoded in what I share, from a frame of reference that I do know that anything is possible. And I do know that we're limitless beings. And at the same time, I know that we're all having experiences that don't always feel that way. And so how do we integrate that knowingness with what appears to be unfolding in everyday life? And that's really what opens up during an Joy seminar, where we begin to see that even our limitations are still inherently connected to that which is boundless. And we begin to relate to our limitations as like brackets or containers or cups that consciousness has poured into. Well, we can expand the brackets or expand the containers or open those cups so that what's poured forth in there can take on a different shape and a different form. And that's a lot of what we learn as well, that the informational fields that we resonate with actually give shape and form to our experience. You change up your resonance, you change up your experience. And so even though we're focusing on 24 fields of flow and fulfillment, abundance, and joy, what we're really learning in the Joy seminar is how to command any field flow. And this means being able to navigate through any terrain of consciousness, not from a frame of reference of limitation, but from a frame of reference of, wow, I know anything is possible, and this experience doesn't necessarily reflect that. So how might I begin to relate to it differently by changing up my resonance, by changing up the field flow that is unfolding, that's creating and perpetuating a certain experience? Whether we're talking about disease or we're talking about relationships to others, or we're talking about the manifestation of a house, the process, the physics that unfolds is entirely the same in all of those distinct expressions. And when we get that, the way the universe does one thing is the way the universe does all things, and then we map that process to our own hologram, then we're leveraging the same principles that the universal creative intelligence uses to create everything. And we become essentially in flow with that essence, and we become unstoppable and limitless as well.
Mm.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. It sounds awesome, and I really feel resistance to that idea. Can I ask you to talk about that?
Yeah,
Um, so there's a part of me which like really knows at a deep level that that's exactly how it is, and there's another part of me which is like the more normal day-to-day consciousness Justin, which is like, well, no, because the what your life is what happens to you, and it doesn't matter how you resonate because life happens and other people happen and society happens and so which
absolutely. And it's so
I think you get the idea.
I mean, my very next book, actually, which isn't published yet, it opens up with my feeling precisely the same way. Like, there's all these people saying, oh, you create your own reality, and at the same time, there's all these things that are happening where life is happening to you. And one of the focuses in the Joy teachings is learning how to recognize this, that there's a symmetry that is occurring where, yes, things are happening. That's where reality is. It's a complex interplay of patterns of light and information. And then there's what we are putting out, which is creating our individual resonance. And what we learn is how to essentially reconcile the two, because it's not just reality. We're creating our reality, and it's really not even as simple as our thoughts create our reality, because when there's a volcano blowing up in Hawaii, I know that I'm not responsible for that, and yet it's still a part of my reality. And so it's recognizing the many different layers and densities of the hologram. And this is why understanding holographic principles can be very helpful to move you out of resistance to what I'm saying to understanding that there's many different layers to reality. And learning how to interact with those multiple layers will enable you to change up the way that you're relating to what appears to be happening to you, or appears to even be happening in the collective, but it's still you in relation to the collective. And it gives you a very empowering and also inspiring way to change up what you are projecting into that hologram, which is then reflected back, because everything is projections, reflections, and connections. And it isn't entirely true to say that we are creating our reality. We are actively co-creating in that reality, but there's many layers to it.
Mhm.
And we, when we are empowered to recognize that, then we are less likely to subject ourselves to something that I refer to in the Joy teachings as the ricochet effect, where we get ricocheted in our individual reality based on what seems to be happening outside of our individuality at the level of the collective. And that is still a function of resonance. And that is still a function of how we choose to connect to information. And when we change up the way we connect to information, there's a ripple effect that occurs. Or when we change up our unique spin on things, that torsion field is encoded in the fabric of the collective consciousness that affects what ripples out at the collective level. And so I agree with you. I honor the resistance that you are experiencing when you're just kind of hearing the top line of the information. What I invite you to consider, and you'll have the opportunity during the integrative seminar, is our resistance is a placeholder. And I teach about everything in our hologram is itself in relation to placeholders, whether we're talking about our problems, where we're talking about our limitations, we're talking about even our opportunities and our possibilities. Those are placeholders. Those represent some aspect of ourself that we've not yet recognized, some aspect of self-love that we're not providing to ourselves. And so the resistance becomes an opportunity that can serve as a platform that can then be a springboard into the momentum of a different expression. So I'm ecstatic that you're resistant, because that's going to be a super opportunity for us to play with. Yeah, I think it's great. I love when I experience resistance, because resistance is just an inverted opportunity. And I think it's great if you think what I'm saying is it sounds great, but is it really possible? And the answer is absolutely. I would not be putting any work out there that I was not fully in integrity with, that I had not tried to mess up on a number of different occasions in order to disprove it. I used to be in the pharmaceutical industry in a former life. Well, it was this lifetime, but a few decades ago, and I used to actually take every single prescription medication that I was expected to promote, and I would try it so that I would know what are the real side effects, not what the package insert says, but like what is really going to go on in my body. And what I can share is that the process that unfolds in the Joy Integrative Seminar, which kind of came from outside of me. I mean, it has my own distinctions, and I'm a necessary facet of it. But these fields of love are here to provide us with clarity in our holograms. We are so confused about who we really are and how we're supposed to navigate through three-dimensional, four-dimensional reality. And these fields come in and they bring forth clarity and connection in a way that that even defies my sense of limitation. And so I would say whatever emotions come up for you as you're hearing about this class, get curious about them. Let it be an opportunity, and then be amazed and delighted by how what at one moment felt like a limitation or felt like resistance, and in the very next moment, through the course of the seminar, becomes an opportunity for expansion and integration. Because really, love itself is inclusive, and love includes everything. And it's the aspects of ourself or ourself in relation to situations and circumstances that we siphon off that creates the sense of limitation and disconnection and resistance. And really, what we learn is a movement as flow, and flow as an expression of the current of infinite potential, the current of joy, the current of love. And when we get in alignment with flows that reflect that symmetrically, then that begins to unfold as an everyday, every way experience.
Can I ask
So
one?
bring on your resistance. I can't wait.
Awesome. What I'm getting the feeling is that in this seminar, I'm going to be in a really loving way. I'm going to be confronting my resistant self, which is a large chunk of my personality. There's a lot of me which is cynical and stubborn and resistant and stuff like that, and I kind of quite like it.
I love that about you as well, and I promise you that you will not let go of anything that isn't serving you, and that there's nothing wrong with being stubborn and being resistant and being your unique you, however it is that you've configured that. This seminar does not seek to wipe that away and make a bunch of blissful individuals that are going to be all love and light, because that's not practical. It just isn't. It isn't. It is about coming into a cohesive relationship with your true authentic self, with all of the tendencies, no matter what that may look like. And from that space of complete acceptance, including our cynicism, we then have the opportunity to choose how and where we want to resonate. And so if your cynicism is working for you, then keep it. Nobody's going to attempt to take it away from you. And I love science because it helps to satisfy my hunger for knowledge, which is a form of cynicism. And so wherever you are in your journey, there's not an attempt to change that. In fact, quite the opposite. Much of what we get when we are cruising through society is that the way that we are isn't good enough, or that we need to be different than who we truly are. And I think that creates more sense of separation and more of a sense of limitation and more of a sense of self-recrimination. And if we can love ourselves exactly as we are, perfectly imperfect, our true authentic selves, knowing that we're limitless beings, and we have these distinct characteristics that are strategies for navigating through everyday life, then it's a holofractal game changer, because the acceptance actually the acceptance actually kind of wipes out the so-called resistance, right? So it's not so much that you're resisting what I'm sharing, you're resisting that what I'm sharing may actually change who you are and the aspects of yourself that you actually
Right.
like. And I promise you that's not going to happen. You're going to get more of you. You're going to get more of what makes you so inherently awesome, because we're here as individuals to show the universe something that it has never seen before. And so infinite potential, infinite expression, infinite distinctions means infinite individuality. And and love has a myriad of expressions, and love is contained within all those expressions, even so-called cynicism. And if that aspect of your personality is supporting you in your own unique expression as an interconnected, infinite being, then more power to that. Let's make that skepticism as curiosity work for you from a space of flow where you're able to open into that even more. Rather than it being resistance, it becomes an opportunity.
That makes sense in the mind-bending, heart-opening way, which is your way. So I guess we should close. I will say to anyone watching, I am cynical by nature, and I had a really cool experience experimenting with the fields of information that Melissa does videos on. And I don't understand how or why, and I was kind of expecting it kind of not to work, because why should it work? But it did. So for anyone who's interested in this kind of vista opening way, which is inclusive of conventional spiritual paradigms, but somehow goes beyond them, just to start dipping the toes in and seeing what happens. And if you feel drawn, welcome to an intensive. And if you're there for London for June, Melissa and I will both love to meet you. And you're doing also workshops in Germany coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, the workshop in London, I believe, is June 25th and the 26th
Right.
at the Lift. And then the following week, I'll be in Germany teaching the Joy Integrative Intensive in southern Germany. It's in the Black Forest. And then I'll be teaching the Joy for Women in Hamburg, Germany. And there'll be German translation. So if you want the English version, then most definitely come to the London Intensive. I'm very, very excited, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Fantastic. Awesome. So please, anyone who's watching, there's a range in which you can avail yourself of this field of infinite possibilities, from free videos on YouTube through to an immersion with MJJ. And thank you so much for this time. I really, I was looking forward to it before, but I'm now even more looking forward to having this time in person with you, and with everyone who comes, and what will happen. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm scared and excited, and that's good.
It's a very, very safe environment, and Fields of Love will embrace our fears. So I'm excited that you're scared, and I'm excited for what's going to unfold. And you know, grace is like a loving blanket for all of us, and so the experience of the seminar, it's not scary at all. It's quite playful. There's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of keeping it real, which is super important to me. This is not a workshop that you go to and then you put your life back together precisely the way it was before. This is a workshop that will carry with you no matter what path you choose to take following the weekend immersion. So I look forward to seeing everyone in London June 25th and the 26th. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa.